Hello everyone, welcome back to Learn with W3 Schools. I am Dr. Ishan Bhatti, and for the past 19 years I have been teaching programming to thousands of undergraduate students and learners worldwide, covering a wide range of programming languages and real world applications. And today we are diving into Kotlin programming language using W3 Schools website as a reference. So now you might be wondering why Kotlin in 2025? Well, Kotlin is more than just an alternative to Java. It's an official language for Android app development supported by Google. It's widely used in mobile applications, server-side applications, cloud-based app systems, and even data science and manipulating projects. With its clean syntax, null safety, and seamless Java interoperability, Kotlin is one of the most in-demand skills you have to have today and in years coming ahead. So here's what I need you to do right now. Open up your browser, head over to W3 Schools website, and go to Kotlin tutorial section. Keep it open beside you as we work through these lessons together. I will make your learning experience much more effective. By the end of this session, you will have a strong foundation in Kotlin. So let's not waste another time. Grab your notes, open W3 Schools, and let's dive into Kotlin programming. W3 Schools is a very popular website and it has tons of tutorials, and I'm going to use this as a reference so that you can follow along and learn any programming language with me. So do follow this channel, and I'm posting more videos about W3 Schools and other coding languages as well. Coming back to Kotlin, Kotlin is a modern trending programming language. It's easy to learn, especially if you're already known to Java. It's 100% compatible with Java. That's the major advantage of it. That's why Android Studio uses Java as well as Kotlin. They do prefer Kotlin nowadays, but you can still use Java, and because they're very compatible with each other, it has become much more popular in recent days. And it is officially Google's own defined language. So that means that Google now prefers to use Kotlin for its apps and every other thing. Kotlin is used to develop Android apps, server-side apps, and much more. Okay, so we will be using W3 Schools website, and I will try to go as many content as I can in this entire course. So do follow along and subscribe. I will be posting videos regularly about Kotlin and using it. Okay, let's begin with it. So now the examples in the chapter, or if you have used W3 Schools website, you know what it is. So let's get into the basic syntax of it. Okay, first thing is first, let's get into introduction to Kotlin and understand what exactly is Kotlin a little bit more. Well, Kotlin is a modern programming language. It is trending programming language nowadays, especially since Google is now backing it to a greater extent. So it is It was released in 2016 by JetBrains by default. It has become very popular since it's become compatible with Java, one of the most popular programming languages out there. Again, that's Java, which means that Java code and libraries can be used within the Kotlin program. Now, keep an eye on this statement a lot, because we're going to be exploring this in much more detail in more advanced classes. But what this basically means is that Java code and all its libraries can be used inside the Kotlin programs, making sure that your Java code, which already is written, can be seamlessly used with Kotlin programs. That's the beauty of Kotlin. It is that it has somehow inherited Java's code, and you can very easily use it. And we will explore this into a greater depth later on in advanced courses. Okay, so Kotlin technically is used for mobile application developments. That's the maximum major use we are currently seeing, especially Android apps. Okay, but however, Kotlin is used in web development, server-side applications, data science, and much more. But the more examples you would find are related to mobile application development. Why use Kotlin? Well, Kotlin is fully compatible with Java. Again, as I said, this statement will pop up again and again: Java, Kotlin, Java, Kotlin. To a point that people do argue, why use Java at all, or why use Kotlin at all when everything can be done with Java and it's much more easier and commonly known. But then again, Kotlin has its own advantages. We will talk about this maybe later on. Okay, with few examples so that you can understand what realize the exact difference. Anyway, so Kotlin is fully compatible with Java. Kotlin works on different platforms like Windows, Mac, Linux, Raspberry Pi, etc. Same as Java. Kotlin is concise and safe. Now, this is where the difference starts to pop up between Java and Kotlin. Java is not so much concise. Kotlin is. Okay, and it's safe. Well, Java is an arguably safe, and that's a different debate anyway. Let's not get into it right now. Kotlin is easy to learn, specifically if you already know Java. Yeah, so if you know Java, Kotlin becomes much more easy to learn. But if you have never used any programming at all, again, Kotlin can be a wonderful fresh start. Kotlin is free to use, so that's the major advantage nowadays. Well, technically almost all programming languages do end up becoming free. It has a big community and support. Debatable. Still, Java is a huge one with the community and support, but yes, Kotlin is growing, again backed by Google. Anyway, so that's a brief intro of Google. Let's get Kotlin. let's get started with the syntax of Kotlin and how we use Kotlin. Okay, let's talk more about Kotlin syntax now. Okay, now in terms of syntax, we basically mean how the code is written and how the code is defined and formatted for the compiler to run properly. The first thing is, first, every Kotlin file is saved as .kt for Kotlin. So do make sure whenever you're using whatever editor you're using, either VS Code or JetBrains or Android Studio itself, we basically go inside and use .kt file. Okay, then every Kotlin code starts with the function main. Okay, we use the word fun for function as a small form, define a function name, and bracket start bracket close. So the main basically becomes the major thing. So the fun keyword is used to declare a function. It tells the Kotlin that we are declaring a function. A function typically is a block of code designed to perform a particular task. So function is a block of code that performs a particular task. In this example, it declares a main function and that performs them some task, which is again printing a statement. Okay, the main method is something you will see every Kotlin program has. Okay, so this is something that you will come across every single Kotlin program. This function is used to execute the code. Okay, it tells our compiler, which again is another software that reads the code and checks whether there are any errors or not. Okay, so a compiler will read this code, and it needs this main code to understand that my code is starting from this point. And then when you execute the code, the main function becomes the first line that basically gets executed. So this is where your program starts to execute. This is the starting point of your code. Your code can have 1,000 lines or 1,000,000 lines, but the main function is the first line that technically gets executed in form of an the execution block. Okay, so that's why it's very important. Everything starts from the main function. Okay, so for example, here we have a println. This again is a function inside a function, and this function is executed once this function gets executed. Okay, second, this function prints a statement on the console. Okay, so the println function is used to print output on our console, and in this example it's going to print hello world. Let's test this code out. You will see that W3Schools provides a very nice interface where you can write the code, change the constant text, click on the run, and the output gets printed here. So we can use with the W3Schools own editor for this matter to write the code and perform various different tasks. Okay, so now once we come here, this is the hello world. So what this is doing is the function main is required. It's printing ln and printing output on the console. Do note, if you're coming from Java or any other programming language, there's no semicolon here. Kotlin does not need a semicolon, or you can skip with that. Okay, so good to know, in Kotlin code statements do not have an ending semicolon, which is often required by other programming languages such as Java, C++, C#, and etc. Okay, so do keep in mind Kotlin doesn't need that, Java does. So if you're coming from Java, it's a habit of using a semicolon, but from Kotlin point of view, you don't need that. Okay, so main parameter. Before Kotlin version 1.3, it was required to use a main function with a parenthesis like function, main, arguments, and so on and so forth. The example above had to be written like this. However, this is no longer needed. The program will run without it. Okay, so if you are from an older version, this is again, since we're using W3Schools latest version, it tells us that it's actually no longer needed. You can run it without it. So what it basically is saying is that the older versions of Kotlin had to use function main, same as we just discussed, but it needed an argument list as well. Argument list provides our system or a function a list of data that it might be needed to run the program. Okay, so it's like an additional piece of information that we need to provide while executing the main function. If you're coming from Java, Java does requires arguments. We use system arguments and array, so we use in that form. Here we use args colon array and define a string type, but this no longer is needed. The previous statement is completely valid. You can just simply write main function without any arguments and it will work fine. That's what it says. Kotlin is trying to simplify the code as much as possible, similar to Python, but still not there yet. But yeah, so what it's doing is that, hey, if you're older version Kotlin user, you might be familiar with this syntax, but if you're learning it for the first time, just go with this thing, main function. You might see this code pop up somewhere in old tutorials or anything. Just don't be afraid of it. This basically means that in previous versions, main function needed an argument, now is no longer needed. Capish? Okay, let's talk more about this output print statement. Okay, so now the print statement that we use is basically a function is okay, this print statement. This is also a function, built-in function that the good people of Kotlin have already developed for us, and all we do is we use this function, and then whatever argument we pass inside this function gets printed on the console. That's what it does. Okay, so the println function is used to print the output on the console. Every time you need to print something on the console, you just write println and the string here. Okay, so you can add as many println statements functions as you want. Note that once you add, every time it prints a new line. So if you come here, we have a function main. Again, this is something this should be now mandatory back of your head, that every time you write a Kotlin code, you need to have function main, bracket start, bracket close, and block start, block close. Now do mind, in my terminology, I call this brackets, and then when I'm writing a code, these curly brackets indicate a block. So it means that block starts here and block ends here. So usually I would refer it to this, hey, main, bracket start, bracket close, block start, block close. Okay, so once we get to the point of defining our own custom functions in the advanced topics, we will again be using our own custom functions. Same terminology. This block is actually used in multiple other things. So if you go for if, else, bool, while, for loops, all of them also tend to use the block. So that's why we define the block as it goes. Anyway, so you can write as many print statements as you want. You can print hello world, I'm learning Kotlin, it is awesome. See this, all these lines without any semicolon, you can write here as many times as you want. Every time you write this line, the key thing to note is that every time you print an output, it will get printed on a new line. So if you come here, you see println hello world on a new line. Then I'm learning Kotlin again on a new line. It's awesome again on a new line. Why it's on a new line? Because there's a small thing called ln. Actually, the statement is print, but then there's another function called ln. This ln adds new line. So this means print the statement on a new line, but this new line is actually added after the statement is printed. So after your string is printed, the new line is added. So in a word, it says, hey, print the statement and then just add a new line. So print a statement and add a new line. Print a statement and add a new line. Right? That's why the next line actually appears on the new line. Okay, it's not because of this ln, it's actually because of the previous ln. Okay, so once we go back here to our Kotlin code, you would find that you can also print numbers, and then there's a print function here. Sorry, before we go to the numbers, you will find that there is a print function here. So if I come back to this code, this one, okay, so if I don't use this ln here in the middle, if I run the code here, okay, see this, the code appears on one single line. The first line is on a new line because again this is a first line, so it doesn't really matter. But the second line again is on a new line. Yes, I am learning Kotlin. This comes on a new line because this is again println. Notice, but there is no ln here, but still this line is on a new line. Okay, because of the previous ln. So actually this means hello world, add a new line. So this statement automatically starts on a new line. But after this, since there is no ln on this point here, this second line adds up on the same line as well. Hence you get it's awesome on the same line. Make sense? A little bit, right? So just keep in mind that whenever you can write a print method as well as ln method. Every time you write a print method, it basically means just add on a same line. So the next statement will also appear on the same line, even though it has ln. Okay, and then whenever you write ln, it means print the statement, add a new line, break it down. Okay, so anyway, we skipped one thing from here. So print output, everything is fine. Yes, this one here, what it says that within this you can print numbers as well. It's not only string. You can write 3 plus 3, so it's going to do mathematical calculation and then perform the operation here. So if you run the code, you would see that output is 6. Okay, because 3 plus 3 is 6. However, if you use string, okay, so if you put this inside the string, now it will basically mean it's going to print the string statement. Make sense? So you can print only a single variable here as well. So if you print 4, this will go and print 4 here, or you can perform calculations here as well. Okay, so the print function, yes, you can use this, but this basically means there's no end line. Everything gets printed on the same line as well. Okay, now let's talk more about comments. Well, comments can be used to explain code. Comments can be there for reference, for some instructions, some debugging purpose, whatever you want. So comments are basically lines of code that is completely ignored by the compiler. Okay, every programming language has it. So comments are a simple way of telling a compiler that please ignore anything after this. So we use a single line comments in Kotlin by double backslash, again same as Java. And then if you come here, basically what you do is you use double backslash and write something. So anything you write after the double backslash is completely ignored by the compiler and it doesn't get printed. Okay, so this example uses currently a double backslash single line comment. So anything after this is completely ignored. Then there are something called multi-line comments as well. Multi-line means anything that uses backslash static, and then it can have multiple lines of code and then static backslash. Again, if you're coming from Java, exactly same thing. So this basically means I can have a multiple lines of comment. This can be 2 lines or 20 lines. Anything that comes between backslash static and static backslash is completely ignored by the browser, or by the compiler, sorry. Now, why we need this? Well, again, when we're writing code, we can block out certain piece of code that we don't want to be printed out, block of certain instructions or function, anything that you don't want compiler to execute. This can be a code, which can be your own comments, which can be instructions, and so on and so forth. Okay, you can write this multi-line in front of the text as well, just like we have here. Println has a comment in front of it. It can come in front, it can come in before, it can come in after, doesn't really matter. Anything after the double backslash or static backslash static becomes completely ignored. That's what comment basically means. So anything you write there as an instructions or a code or something you want omitted out, well, comes inside the comments. Make sense? Perfect. Well, that concludes today's session. And in tomorrow, we're going to talk more about variables, data types, and operators and strings. Okay, so do tune in. Please do subscribe. Leave your comment what you want to learn and how you find these tutorials, what else you want to do. So till tomorrow, we're going to talk more about variables, data types, and this strings. Okay, and then we're going to try to complete these things as soon as we can, hopefully within 1 week. Okay, so this is W3 Schools website, wonderful tutorial and channel name Learn with W3 Schools. I'm fumbling here. See you around.